Hello, everybody. I'm the Doctor. Well, one of me, anyway. I just thought I'd pop in and do a quick intro for Adam's show tonight, because apparently he's reviewing a movie about my arch enemies, the Daleks. I asked him, of course, if I was in the movie too, and his reply was quite unnerving. He simply said, "Well, yes, I suppose so. Sort of." And then his eyes just fell into a pit of despair. Now, even I don't know what to expect. Are you seated comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin. Here's your bloody rant show, folks.
What it is. Every time he visits, the place smells like stale jelly babies. Oh. Hi. Greetings. I am E. Adam Thomas, and this is Film Rants, the most angry film review show in all of space and time. November 23rd is the anniversary of one of the most beloved sci-fi fantasy series in television history, Doctor Who. So, for the next 2 weeks, I'm looking at 2 cinematic presentations based on this iconic franchise. First up, we have the 1966 Gordon Fleming film Doctor Who and the Daleks, starring Peter Cushing as the titular character. The film reimagines the first televised appearance of the Doctor's most famous villains, the Daleks. Right from the very beginning, the opening credits, you know this film is in trouble. No Doctor Who theme, just a blurring cacophony of 60s-style jazz music that sounds more like it should be opening a spy movie with Dean Martin, played over an obviously out-of-focus shot of a chandelier. Next, we're treated to a sitting room in London, where an eccentric inventor and his 2 granddaughters are sitting there reading. The girls are reading science books, the man is reading a comic book. Ooh, how silly and quaint! Which is an apt description of the entire film itself. In comes the film's version of Ian Chesterton, played by Roy Castle, a bumbling oaf with all the charisma of a goofy next-door neighbor from a 1960s-era sitcom. In stark contrast to the TV version of their characters, this film's Ian and Barbara are absolutely worthless, like being chained to 2 Adrecs on Prozac. Doctor Who himself is an apparently human scientist, not an alien Time Lord, and a bit of a moron as well. He is an uninspired character of the silly old professor archetype, with none of the depth or irascible nature of William Hartnell's portrayal. Peter Cushing is a fine actor usually, but in this, he's downright galling. I kept wanting his buddy Christopher Lee from the old Hammer horror films to appear as Dracula and bite his fucking neck off. The story itself pretty much follows the high points of the original TV serial, note for note, with the only notable exception being the iconic scene where Barbara encounters a Dalek for the first time. Nonetheless, it seems they managed to take the steam out of every major plot development. The pacing of the film is even enough, but it's a crappy pace. It's not fast enough to be exciting, and not slow enough to heighten any suspense or tension. It's all just basically there, like a vase on the table. It just sits there and says, Hi, look at me. I'm a movie." Technically, the only asset to this film is the fact that it was in color. So I guess the fact that the people got to see the Daleks in color for the first time was something, I guess. But the color scheme of the Daleks themselves were obviously designed to sell toys, not engender any sense of threat at all. They look silly and laughable, a far cry from the war-beaten menace of the first glimpse of the Daleks in the new series. On the technical end, everything is way off. From the design of the TARDIS console room itself, which looks more like somebody blew up 37 PCs and dangled the remains from the walls, to the exterior shots that were so obviously studio shots you could actually see the fabric folds in the backdrop. Say what you will about the supposedly flimsy sets of the old series, but they were still 10 times more convincing than the shitbag sets in this film. This film was literally shot on a budget that would have had the TV show's producers drooling, yet somehow it still manages to look worse. Look, it's painfully obvious that this movie was only made for one reason, and one reason only. It's a fucking cash grab. Admittedly, the TV series had yet to reach the iconic status it has today. It had only been on for 3 years at this point, and the Doctor hadn't even regenerated for the first time yet. Still, by this time, even though Time Lords and the planet Gallifrey had yet to be brought into the show's mythos, it was already an established series with defined characters and subplots. That, for whatever reasons, the filmmakers decided to shit-can all of that and pretty much half-ass all of the central characters is an insult to the intelligence of the show's fans. I'm almost surprised that they even bothered to keep the TARDIS itself as a police box. They blatantly fucked with everything else, why not go all the way? As much as I've become disillusioned with J.J. Abrams' take on Star Trek, he certainly has paid a lot more respect to the original source material than the fuckheads that made this film. It's literally an 82-minute long toy commercial and nothing else. It's a shitty film for non-Doctor Who fans, and if you are a fan, it's nothing more than purely hate-worthy. Now, let's fire up those Zyton crystals and bring the rantometer in from the vortex. Artistic only gets a score of 1. And that's only for the fact that there were a couple of good matte effects in the film that did raise the bar a bit from a technical standpoint. Coolest gets nothing. It's not cool. It's a vapid, ignorant take on what had become already an amazingly successful series. Originality also gets a 0 because it's simply an adaptation of the TV episode it was based on, and what changes they did make from the main characters to the sets and the look of the Daleks were inferior in every way to the series. Suckitude gets a 3. Now I know what you're thinking. What? Not a full 5? No, because as awful as this film is, there aren't enough technical flaws with the actual filmmaking itself to warrant it. It was competently shot and edited, and none of the actual special effects, what few there were in and of themselves completely awful. Nonetheless, that still gives Doctor Who and the Daleks an overall score of -2. It's a piece of shit that seems to know it's a piece of shit and does absolutely nothing whatsoever to redeem itself. Next week, we'll be looking at the 50th anniversary special, Day of the Doctor, starring Matt Smith and David Tennant. And before you say a fucking word, it counts because I did see it in the goddamn theater. That and I couldn't bring myself to subject myself to both shitty 60s Doctor Who movies in a row. I need some time to decompress, like a year. Next month is All Request Month. We'll also be featuring an extra Christmas episode where I will attempt to tackle 2 completely different Christmas movies. Get your requests in, as I will be naming names and making you a microstar. Use the hashtag FilmRantsEAT or message me directly by email at filmrantseat@cox.net. Check the description on this video to get the Film Rants Facebook page, and remember, I'm here to help, just like the Doctor himself. If I don't warn you about shitbag films like this, who will? In the meantime, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. Shithead.
Angry Men Reviews. Many fucks said, no fucks given.
Would you like a jelly baby? Oh, I bit its head off! I'm so horrible! Oh, God. Who doesn't go for the head first?